Hello, hey, how are you doing? Where are you going?
Hello, vlog.
Where are you going?
Going home.
Going home.
Where's home?
In Lahog.
Lahog, oh, okay. Filipinos are so friendly. I love the Philippines. I live here 6 years. I live in Lahog, Mabolo, Mandawi, and now amazing Philippines. Amazing Philippines, huh? All right. Hello and welcome to the Philippines. One thing I love about the Philippines, you can stop and talk to almost anybody and they are friendly. Not only friendly, but they'll take time and be interested in you and stop whatever they're doing and chat with you oftentimes. Of course, we're in the middle of traffic, so we can't talk too long. But interesting conversations. I try to talk to many people in my walks, in my travels. And you know, as foreigners, they don't know who we are. They don't know what language you speak, if you're a good guy, bad guy. And when you greet them, I almost always get a greeting back and a big smile as well. And then they understand, hey, these foreigners aren't such bad people. And you may be treated better in the future because of that, because you are diplomats basically for your country. Whether you like it or not, you have an influence on people and what they think of you and your type. Anyway, during this video, I've had a lot going on the last couple weeks. I've gotten behind in emails and answering comments and doing videos a little bit, and I've been in the hospital watching over a friend for, gosh, almost 14 days, I think. I'll tell you a little bit about that. It's the middle of the month. I'll tell you a little bit about the latest travel categories, restrictions, allowances, a little bit about that, and just a little bit about life in general here in the Philippines, I guess. Anyway, we're here in the middle of the month. About every 15 days, the IATF, the agency group of people who is they set the guidelines, advise the government on what to do about the virus. And many countries, most countries in most provinces, towns, cities in the Philippines will remain under level 1. They had 5 levels, I think, 5 being the worst. So most remain under level 1. There are some that remain under level 2, which in theory means there are more restrictions. In reality, businesses are trying to survive, and life on the street, Filipinos are trying to survive. 2 years of travel restrictions. They're trying to survive. So around the Philippines, depends on where you're at, but things have pretty much loosened up. It's not back to normal by a long shot. People are still wearing masks, and that will probably go on for a couple more months. Though, from everything I've read, there's no hint that even though 99% of the people are not wearing proper medical grade masks, just who knows what material they're made out of. They just haven't addressed that. Anyway, as far as allowing, many countries are allowing 3 different categories of people to travel in their countries. But some, amazingly, like the UK, the United States, few other countries, including the Philippines, do not recognize all those. They're only allowing, basically, here's a kid asking for money. You'll see that a lot in the Philippines. Kids out in the middle of traffic asking for money. But many countries are allowing, if you've recovered, and tens of millions of Filipinos, for instance, have surely had the virus, one of the variants, and recovered from it and have strong, long-lasting immunity. So many countries around the world, including many in the EU, I think, are accepting natural immunity. They're accepting various vaccines, not all, but various vaccines, depends on the country. And many countries are also accepting a negative test. And that was, gosh, even a year ago, countries were allowing, if you tested negative, you were allowed to travel. So those three different categories. Well, Philippines is still on that. Oh no, everybody has to get vaccinated. I read an article the other day that stated, if you've had the virus, don't get vaccinated. And I believe I've had it a couple times at least. And once was relatively mild. It wasn't the flu and it wasn't a cold. It was something else. The second time was a little worse. Stayed at home, never went to a doctor. Lost a few kilos, about 12 pounds, I think, because I wasn't hungry, didn't eat. Lots of friendly Filipinos, and they see the camera, they come up and wave.
Where you going?
So, and you can chat with other drivers like this. Man, you'd be afraid to do that in many countries. Big group. I love the freedom. Gosh, as a kid, I rode in the back of the pickup truck going to and from work, out into the field. Grew up on a farm. I love the freedom that we still have here, to some degree. To some degree, with travel restrictions are still up. The last few days, I have searched the news sites to see if I could get any hint of what might be happening. We had an election, about a week and a half ago. Got a new president, different Congress people, looking for some hint, some discussion about opening up the country further, and haven't found anything. The Philippines, like many countries, desperately needs those tourist dollars. 2 years of travel lockdowns, basically, and they're in debt. They've got a lot of debt to pay off, and I know different projects have been put on hold because of the debt situation. Anyway, if they continue to fall behind other countries in opening up, they're going to lose that opportunity. Many people, they decide, well, I'm gonna travel. I can't go to the Philippines, so I'm going to go to Thailand. I'm going to go to Vietnam. I'm going to go to Cambodia. I'm going to go to Mexico or Ecuador or wherever. Portugal or Spain, or there's hundreds of choices, very good choices. And if the Philippines doesn't get on the ball, get with the program, they're going to lose. They're going to lose millions and millions, hundreds of millions of potential tourist dollars. Now a little bit about that is the Big Buy Hotel just across the street from Park Mall, smaller, older mall, and then back over there to the left is Mandani Bay. But anyway, the hospital situation. A couple weeks ago, I was riding my motorbike. I stopped by a friend's place. I oftentimes have coffee with him once a week or every week and a half. And he was I saw his memory was starting to go down. He was having a little bit of issues. Time to get some fuel here, very expensive fuel, mid 70s to 80 pesos per liter. But anyway, I noticed I should have taken him to the hospital, and he actually had a doctor appointment a month or so ago, and he didn't want to go, according to his partner. But anyway, I should have insisted, and I went to see him, and he was confused and carrying on a conversation, but didn't make much sense. So the next day, I called his partner. I said, "Coming over. We need to take Tom to the emergency room now." And we did. We went over and said, "Tom, you have a doctor appointment." "Oh, really?" "Yeah." "Okay." Grabbed a taxi, took him to the emergency room. Took a while to get him checked out. There was another foreigner in there. Looked like he was probably in his 50s. I don't know if he had a heart attack or what. He was conscious. The family was there, talking and calling. Several different family members came to visit while he was there. I suspect that they put him in the room also. Anyway, they admitted my friend. I had to get once they got out of the emergency room into the next area before he was admitted, they said, well, you're not allowed in here unless you get an antigen test. I said, okay, I'll take the antigen test. Go wait there, go sit there and wait. And in the meantime, they came running out. Nurses came running out. Rod, come, you're the only one Tom will listen to. And so I went into that area and calmed him down. And he wasn't sure why he was there. He didn't want to be there, and confused, and a little bit combative, uncooperative. And so anyway, we went through that program a number of times over the last 2 weeks, and there were times he wanted to slug me, and there were times I wanted to slug him. But I'm a very patient man, and I talk to him calmly, and many times he would not recognize me, and he would threaten me, but I just stood by him, had my hand on his shoulder, and calm him down. Tom, I'm your friend. I'm just trying. Everybody's just trying to help you. But he would every other day he would rip the IV out of his arm, and so it was a difficult time. And then he wouldn't sleep, wouldn't eat, wasn't hungry, didn't eat for 10 days or so. He finally got some appetite back, started eating some things, and drinking, and regaining a little bit of more and more. You could see he was starting to recognize you and talk with more comprehensible sentences, but still often confused. So if you got a stroke, you got a blood clot in your head. They said it's small. They did CT scan. Did 3 of them, as a matter of fact, because he was uncooperative. It took 3 to do what 1 should have done, because he kept moving around, and tried to do an ultrasound on his legs to see if there were clots there. And he fought that very, very, very hard. So we only ended up doing 1 leg. So that ended up adding to the cost. When you're uncooperative, they need to take certain tests, to see what's going on. And anyway, the deal is part of the problem, I think, was he was taking a blood thinner, and then I think it had to do with these vaccines. They often tell you to take an aspirin. If you have a headache, take an aspirin. And I think he was taking an aspirin a day in addition to blood thinner. Well, aspirin is a blood thinner, so he's getting too much blood thinner, and the doctor said that may be what happened, why he had the stroke, the hemorrhage in his brain. And so they took him off of that, and he had a lung pulmonary doctor who treated him several years ago for pneumonia. He was kind of like the head of the team, I believe. Whoever your last doctor was kind of has the authority over the other doctors, basically a team leader, I think. Somebody will correct me. But there was a neurologist, there was a psychologist, there was a kidney specialist. I think there was about 5 doctors total that would come in every day or every other day, check upon him, and nurses coming in very regularly. Robinson's Galleria Mall there. Interesting. I think it's the newest mall in town. But anyway, after he started eating on his own, drinking on his own more often, the doctors all signed off, said it's okay for him to go home. With these medications, we want to see him in 2 weeks for another CT scan. And we took him home, and the familiar setting of being home helped a lot. You could tell he was much more happy about being there, because oftentimes he would get up and say, let's go. He didn't want to be there. And I explained to him, no, you can't leave, Tom, and you can discharge your health part of the patient's bill of rights, you can discharge yourself, but we weren't going to let him do that until we thought that he was capable of at least his partner being able to help him at home. So the final bill there was about $400,000. She put a $30,000 deposit down. She paid another couple $100,000 over the course of about a week or so, and it came to almost $400,000. So 400,000 divided by 51 pesos to the U.S. dollar, about 7,843. Divided by 14 days, it's about $560 a day. And when he was in there for pneumonia was basically one doctor, I think, and 10 days, something like that. That was, I don't know, less than 200,000, I think, she said. But you've got a lot more doctors, a lot more critical tests to take, and then the fact that he was not cooperative, that added to the expenses. I would recommend, there is something called PhilHealth here. It's a government-run health program. Relatively expensive. I think it's less than $400 for a year. They changed it a few years ago where foreigners are not covered under the most expensive critical package, but it does help with medications and various types of things. So it would be worth, for relatively low cost, would be good to have that. And then if you have some other insurance up and above that, because these things can get out of hand very quickly. Even if you think you are a healthy person, you just never know what's going to happen. Different country, different bugs, and such. Higher humidity levels for many foreigners. I had a sinus infection once, and the doctor told me, yeah, I treat a lot of foreigners. They're not used to the constant higher humidity compared to where they've been from. Now going forward, a new administration, new president, and people ask, well, what do you think this? Some people have said, no, they're going to change this, change that. Well, we really don't know. I'm sure that the Philippines will continue to be very welcoming to foreigners, to tourists, to expats. I mean, they need the dollars. Philippines has a lot going for it. It's a great place to visit. I know a lot of expats, a number of expats, they say, I can't live here 12 months out of the year. They might stay 4 months or 6 months and then go back to their home country or visit some other country for the remainder of the time. But it can grind on you. The different things operate differently here. It's a different culture. It's a different language. Even though many speak and understand English, it's a different English. Things generally aren't as urgent. Your priorities aren't their priorities. Your urgency is not their urgency. It can be frustrating. Believe me, something that should take an hour or 2 or 3 might take 2 or 3 days to accomplish here. Depends on what part of the Philippines you live in. If you live in the larger cities, you have more services and goods available to you. You live in the province, out in the smaller cities, countryside. Many of those expats come to the bigger city once a month or so, every couple months, and stock up on things they can't find there. But anyway, lots of potential, regardless of what your requirements and your desires, what will make you happy, and isn't that the top priority? To be happy, to be safe, and each of us has our own definition, our own happiness level, what we need to be happy. I'm happy here. I'm love the Philippine people. Anyway, I'm going to let end this here. So stay safe, take care. See you next time.